on the left.
Hi Alice, how are you?
Hey, good, thank you.
Oh, let me just adjust my background first. Hey. Yep. Is this background okay?
Yeah, it looks great.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
Cass is here. Great.
Hello, Castia.
Hi, Cass.
Hello. How are you all going?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, good.
Nice
Good.
hair, mate.
Say what?
Nice hair.
Oh, you know, it's okay. It's my 6-monthly shed.
I have a hair story to tell you at another time.
Oh, yes.
Have you met Wenjia before, Cass?
No, I haven't. I don't believe. No. I don't believe I've met you before.
Yeah, we don't.
No.
Yeah, we don't. No, yeah.
No.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, cool.
So I'm Wenji. I'm working with Professor Jun Huang in
Oh, yes.
chemical engineering.
Oh,
Yeah.
very nice. Very nice. Just relocating. So I can tend to be a bit noisy. Don't want to upset anyone.
Don't upset anyone, please.
Oh, I do like to do that.
I tried so hard to find a quiet place. But I'm sorry, I don't have an earphone with me today, so because I didn't prepare.
That's all good. You're all prepared. Okay, I'm gonna test something out with the cat. 1 second.
Hey, huge.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi,
I just
sorry.
had to change my plant room background that I left on from yesterday.
Sorry, we can't hear. Can we?
Hi, Shayna. Don't think we can hear Shayna.
Yeah.
Hi, you.
Hi, hey, all going?
Good, thank you. Shayna? Shayna, can you hear us? Hi, Shayna.
Looks like she can't hear us as well.
Shayna? Good approach. Oh, no, I can't. I am muted you, Cass, and I can't unmute you. I don't have the power.
It's okay. It just sends me a message, and
It just sends you a message that hurts.
do I want to be unmuted? And it's a big decision.
Good, it gives you an option. Okay, can I test some sound with you guys? We can
We can hear you now.
How are you? Shayna? We heard you for a second.
I still can't hear anyone. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh yeah, we can hear you now.
Can you hear us? No.
Oh.
Can you hear us, Shayna? Shayna?
Oh.
Maybe try turning.
She can't hear
the
any
volume up.
of us. She's just said.
Volume. We'll just keep talking. Hello, hello.
Blah 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 blah.
I'm gonna
Oh,
test.
knock knock jokes.
I'm gonna test the slides while Shayna. Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Woohoo!
Oh, great! Welcome back.
Yeah.
Just gonna check how the sound is on these slides to you all, because I think it should work, but it's quite important, I guess. So there we go. So can you see how this sounds to you? Oh wait.
Science rules.
Live from the lab.
So that's a video file, and then I've got song files for each song. So do you mind if I just test a couple of those too?
Yeah, sure.
Good. Okay, try one more. In fact, I'm going to try two more. I just snipped you. Okay.
It's good.
Yeah, it's good for me.
And this is the final one. So if this one works, then we're winning. Okay, great. Okay, great. Let's see who's here. Got Courtney. Hi, Courtney.
Howdy. I want to have a fun background like you. I'm going to fix that.
I sent you one if you want to use it, but I sent it to you on your phone, I think.
Yeah, I'll send it to save it on my comp.
Is Lamia and Non? Hi, guys.
Hi.
Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, sounds great.
Perfect. So we're just waiting for Gemma and Sean, I think. Cass and Huge, if you're able to use your Toptastic Zoom skills to make it so that we can see all of the people in the call just for the last part, like when we're having a discussion, that would be great. So Courtney and I are going to open, and then we're going to go to each pair of scientists and musicians in turn, first of all, in the order on the slides, and then we're going to all come together at the end.
So you want to sort of speaker view, but everyone, or just gallery view with everyone visible?
I think maybe whatever you think looks best, either gallery or speaker at the end.
Yeah.
But people might, we might get everybody to, once we've got everybody in the call, we might get everybody to switch off their video and mute, but then come back on when it's their part, if that makes sense, so that it's okay if you cough or you knock the mute off or something like that.
Okay, so at the end, you want everyone except me and Huge.
Well, I mean, you and Huge are very welcome to join us.
But... no, I wasn't hinting or anything. Yeah.
But that would be great.
Just getting it. So you want sound on and video on for everyone?
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. Sounds good.
Okay, great.
Everyone will just get a message just to say, asking you to unmute and be visible. So you'll just have to okay that.
Okay, sounds great.
Yeah.
We'll just give Sean and Gemma a little bit longer before I press broadcast, or before somebody press broadcast, if that's okay. Gemma's joining now. Just get Sean. I think I'm going to quickly move the slide so that we start with Non and Lamia. So because we've got both of you here. And then Gemma is joining. She's having some Zoom link and I can't get through to Sean. So I'll put the slides in that order so that we go start with the people who are here. That's okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Hey, Alice. Do you want everyone muted and video off at the beginning?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
That might be best.
And then at the end, everyone comes in?
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm just going to close my slides a second. Okay, I might hit broadcast. I can see Gemma's here. Is that a good, Cass?
the lab.
That's so crazy. Could it be this love has burnt out? I guess I just thought that I could be there for you. I guess I just thought you would be there for me too. Me too. Have we realized we faded, dissipated from view?
Every sound, because like obviously so many sounds. Wow. Well, okay.
This love was so visible. So
Good afternoon, everyone. Today we acknowledge and pay respect to the traditional owners of the land on which we meet. The traditional owners of the land upon which both the University of Sydney and FBI radio station are built are the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. If you are joining us from lands that belong to other traditional owners, we'd love for you to share this and expand on our acknowledgement in the chat stream. Together, may we all pay respect to the knowledge embedded forever within the Aboriginal custodianship of country. Hello and welcome to Live from the Lab, where music, science and art meet. I'm Associate Professor Alice Motion from the School of Chemistry and Sydney Nano at the University of Sydney. And I'm joined today by Courtney Ammenhauser, who's co-hosting today with me and is the host from Up For It on FBI Radio. So Courtney, if you want to switch on your camera, we'd love to hear from you.
I would love to. It's saying that I can't start my video because the host stopped it. Oh, there we go.
Here we go. Here's Courtney.
Beautiful. Hi. Thank you all for coming along to the panels today. Like Alice said, I'm the host of Up For It on FBI. I'm there every day from 6 till 9. So if you ever need someone to hang out with in the morning, you should tune on in. Every Tuesday, Alice joins me for Up and Atom, where we talk science. But this week, and a little bit extra, we did it last Friday as well. We've expanded it for Live from the Lab to celebrate National Science Week. And it's been a whole lot of fun, I have to say.
Yeah, it really has. We have taken Live from the Lab, which is something that's been sort of growing for the last 5 years since I've had the pleasure of working with Courtney and 3 other hosts on Up and Atom on FBI Radio. And the first host that I worked with was Georgia Hitch. And back in 2015, a friend of mine, James Parrish, introduced me to Sean Conran from Obscura Hale, who you're going to hear from today. And Sean wrote a couple of pieces in response to the science stories that I was bringing onto the show to talk about with Georgia. And 5 years later, we've managed to get a little bit more funding, and we've changed it into a week-long, in fact, an over a week-long event, as Courtney mentioned. Every day this week, we've heard a piece of music that has been composed by a local Sydney artist in response to some of the amazing science that goes on at the Sydney Nano Institute. There's all sorts of research there. It's all exploring science at very small scales, at the nano scale. So this is smaller than millimeters, smaller than micrometers. It's nano, it's 10 to the minus 9. And we have spoken to researchers from 6 challenges that are really trying to solve very difficult problems that we'd all be glad of solutions to. We're going to hear from 3 of those researchers today, and we're also going to meet the artists who have composed a piece of music in response to this research. We're going to hear the song, which have only just been released this week, so they're still pretty hot off the press. And we're going to have a little introduction to each of these musicians and researchers, and then a panel discussion. And we'd love for you who are joining us today over Zoom. We're sorry we can't see you in person, but we welcome you to our event, and we'd love to hear your questions that Courtney and I will try and put to the musicians and researchers this afternoon. So let's get on with the show, Courtney. We'll introduce our first guest, and then we'll play a song. So our first guests are from the Computational Materials Discovery Project at Sydney Nano. And we are welcoming a scientist and a researcher, a scientist and a musician, sorry. I will introduce Dr. Lamia Azizi, who received her PhD in applied mathematics from Joseph Fourier University in France. She's been a senior statistician at the University of Cambridge, and she's now the deputy champion from the Sydney Nano Grand Challenge on computational materials discovery and the UCID ambassador for the Smart Sensing Network.
And we also have musician Flower Boy, or Nonchalant, and at the heart of their hazy songwriting is a duality of melancholic love songs and odes to identity and heritage. Born in Sydney to Chinese and Lebanese parents, Nonchalant, aka Flower Boy, paints emotional images with their classically trained background combined with forward-thinking production.
So let's hear the song, hey Courtney. So this is
Yeah, let's do
Stimulations
it.
by Flower Boy. That was Stimulations by Flower Boy in response to discussions with Dr. Lamia Azizi from the Computational Materials Discovery Project I love that piece. We're going to go to Lamia now. So Lamia, you are the co-director of this Grand Challenge, which is a really exciting one that's trying to basically get computers to design and test materials for us without ever having to make those materials, which obviously saves time and resources, but it sounds a little bit out there. What's your role in this project? What do you do to contribute to this team?
Hi, Alice and Courtney. That's nice to see you again and hear again the piece of music made by Flower Boy as a reaction to the discussion we had. It's always a pleasure to hear you. It's always fantastic to see that we challenge. This is something I have never expected before. So my role in this project, as you've said, this is a real grand challenge where we're thinking or envisioning a world where we can simulate all these materials using computers and latest technologies before even going to the lab and test them. So this is something that we envision a different world to the one we're living in. My role is, so I am, as you've said, basically a mathematician who became a machine learning researcher with time. So I combine my love for mathematics and computational to solve real world problems. In this project, we bring together, or for the success of this grand challenge, we need to bring together a number of people who work in a multidisciplinary fashion and comes from different fields. In particular, we bring together people from quantum computing, and quantum computing, as maybe some people know, is the computer of the futures, the computers that promise to achieve all the tasks that the current computers are not able to achieve. And we bring together people like myself who are experts in machine learning and AI, artificial intelligence, and we bring in the same team together material scientists who have accumulated all during their career and expertise and knowledge of material sciences. So my role, I'm the co-director or the co-leading of the group. And what we do is we, with Professor Ivan Kassar from the School of Chemistry, who is the lead of this project, we coordinate the work of the different groups, and my team at the School of Mathematics and Statistics, we bring the need for or the expertise in the machine learning and artificial intelligence and data science, everything based on data. So basically we are the lazy team. We are at the so we let the material scientists go and do the work. We let the quantum computing people do the work, and then they gather all this information. And then we use basically to try to understand how all these components interact with each other. And then we try to predict or build algorithms that can predict and help them in designing the new materials or designing much better materials in the future.
Thanks, Lamia. So I don't believe that you're really the lazy team, although I love that description. I think the way you describe that just reminds us how interdisciplinary science is, and also how essential mathematics is to our understanding of the world. I know Courtney now has a question for Non.
Yeah, Non, I just wanted to talk to you about your process in making the track. I know we spoke about it on the show, but for the people who are here today, how did you go from having that chat into actually putting that into making the song?
I'd say I'm a pretty visually based person. So as Lamia and I were discussing her research, I sort of started envisioning these little computers in a lab at nighttime, just working away in trying to create new materials while we're all asleep. And so just sorry, it's so windy, my door's slamming. So I just kind of, I don't know, it's almost like a lullaby for these computers who are working away. I know it's kind of silly, but I kind of just tend to personify everything. So yeah, my process, I guess, was just to almost translate the actions in which the computers were doing. So repeatedly doing something and then translating that into a musical sense. So like repeated phrases and loops and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I like the way you described it as like these little machines working away at night. I kind of, when you said that, I pictured like Santa's elves or something, like making all this stuff and it kind of going down the conveyor belt. This red. Oh, we've got a question in the chat there from the folks at Obscura Hale wondering, what do you compose with? Do you use Ableton?
Yeah, so I use Ableton, and like I'm classically trained, but I think like I throw all of that stuff out the window. And I'm also really bad with, like, I don't use any plugins or anything, which people find really ridiculous. But I find sometimes like when you have a really limited set of things, you know, like tend to do more musically because there's like less to be distracted by, or be like, oh, I wonder if I try this or try that, and get lost in all of that kind of stuff.
Kind of like that whole saying of like the containment can kind of, or like having some framework can make it more freeing.
Yeah,
there
absolutely.
We go. Limitation is the mother of innovation. That's better. That's a nice way of saying it. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. It's such a dreamy song.
Yeah, we'll hear more from Lamie and Nan in just a moment, but we will move on to our next participants in today's panel, so you get to hear from everybody. Next up, we have Dr. Shayna Gia and Gemma Navarrete, who have been talking about unlocking the neural interface. And I will introduce Shayna to you, who obtained her PhD in drug delivery science in 2019. And she comes from a background of chemistry, which is my own. So, you know, I feel a certain kindred spirit to Shayna in that way. And she is working as part of this grand challenge where she's looking at using nanotechnology, as she'll explain to us a little bit more in a moment, to try and deliver treatments for genetic diseases.
And Gemma Navarrete, singer-songwriter from Western Sydney and a musician who creates R&B pop-infused tracks with concise, poetic lyrics that intend to storytell and immerse audiences in a unique experience. And Gemma began her music journey at just 10 years old and was adamant that music was her calling after no other hobby seemed to be fulfilling. And drawing on influences such as Summer Walker, Ari Lennox, and Miguel, Songstress intends to create a refreshing new sound which holds a sense of nostalgia and updated Gen Z lyrics detailing everyday emotions.
So let's hear a bit of that refreshing new sound from Gemma Navarrete. This is Visible to Me, so hope you enjoy this one.
And we would run as far as the eye can see.
Gemma Navarette. What a tune. It's very catchy. I can't help myself. I just keep on singing it, so I'm wandering around the house. We're going to hear from both Gemma and Shayna now. But Shayna, you're as part of a project that's really trying to look at cures for neurological diseases. So really trying to understand and be able to intervene in conditions of the central nervous system, which is quite a tricky thing to do. And I know you've been looking at a particular disease with your research. Would you be able to explain to us a little bit more about what you're working on in the laboratory?
Yeah, sure. So the disease we are trying to treat, particularly in our project, is a eye disease called Stargardt disease. So this disease is an inherited disease. So it means like the patient gets it from their parents. And another special thing about this disease is that it's just one gene disease. So it means that the cause of this disease is just by one faulty gene, and we already know the barcode of that gene. It's called ABCA4 anyway. So what we are trying to do is we are thinking, okay, this gene, it has some mutations, so the screen is sort of messed up, and so that it couldn't produce the right protein, the right functioning molecule to work. Because without this protein, there are going to be some poisonous waste accumulate in the eye cells, so that it will kill the different types of eye cells, and patients gradually lose their central vision. So we are thinking, okay, this gene, it doesn't work. What about we just deliver a gene that can work into the cells? So in this way, we can let the cells generate a protein that's going to do the work, like transport all the poisonous waste outside the cells and stop the cells from death. So that comes to another question, is how do we get the DNA inside the cells? Because when we're talking about DNA, it's just actually a string of nucleic acid. It's like just a small molecules. So when we are thinking of that, we are thinking maybe this is a time where we can use nanotechnology. There is a product or sort of a technique in nanotechnology is using like very safe fatty compound. We can see those compounds in our daily life quite often, like in the hair conditioner, in the shampoo, in the dishwasher, those type of lipid. So they will form a very small capsule. And then using this capsule, we can encapsulate it, the DNA, and then by injection, like such sort of small capsules in the cells, the capsule's shell will be digested in the cell, and then the DNA will be released and then start producing the proteins in the cells. So this is what we are hoping, how can we treat this Stargardt disease.
That's very cool. So you're like the captain of the genetic postal service, and you've got to develop these fatty envelopes to get the genetic information to where it needs to be.
Yeah,
Thanks so much,
like.
Thanks so much, Shayna. I hand over to Courtney.
Gemma, I wanted to ask you, after learning about the work that Shayna does, how did you then go and take that into creating that beautiful love song sounding track?
Well, I remember when we had our conversation, she listed 3 grand challenges that they're working on. So I had to choose one, and I chose the one she just spoke about. I remember Alice saying, like, don't go out of your way to like research it, like just take the information you were given and run with that. Because in the back of my mind, I was like, I still don't know what's going on. I was a bit confused. So I was like, I'll just take what I've got and I'll do like my best with it. I think I understood it well enough. So I think I was able to pull off like a good piece that had like each, element personified really well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's super catchy as well.
Thanks.
Yeah, I've been singing it a lot around the place. I think
really?
Yeah. On Monday after the show, I was like,
I think it's the first time for me that I've heard a song, before it's been released, because we got to hear a little bit early, didn't we, Courtney? So you feel even more crazy when you're going around singing a song that not that many people have heard yet. But yeah, it's very catchy. Thanks so much, Gemma and Shayna. We're going to come back to you for the panel, but we'll move on and introduce our final pairing for today. So our final musical and scientific partnership are from the CO2 Zero project, which is a very exciting one that we'll hear about in a moment. And the scientist who's joining us today, we're really happy to welcome Wenjie Yang, who's a PhD candidate in the School of Chemical and Biomolecular Engineering at the University of Sydney. He got his bachelor's degree from the University of Sydney, so he's been with us for a little while, and he's working with Associate Professor Jun Huang on the development of green and sustainable processes for fuel and chemical production, using a range of techniques, some of which we'll hear about today.
And we also have from Melbourne via Wollongong, we've got Sean Conran of Obscura Hail, who externalizes memory for the sake of preservation. And over countless late night recording sessions in an evolving ad hoc home studio, Conran has amassed a rich musical archive of alternating styles and an obsessive commitment to his songwriting craft, and joined by the irreplaceable Tamara Issa and Kaylin Eamon, whose dynamic contribution perpetuates the routine. Welcome to you as well.
Yeah, welcome both of you. We're going to hear this song. It's all of the artists who've contributed have been extremely wonderful and special, but it's also particularly great to have Sean and Tamara back as part of this project, which started a few years ago. So it's great to see you both. Let's hear the track. So by Sean Conran and Tamara Issa of Obscura Hail, our final tune for today. This is Venom.
Treated by the needle by the needle thread passing through the
That was Venom by Sean Conran and Tamara Issa of Obscura Hale in response to discussions with Wenjia Yang from the CO2 Zero project. Wenjia, we're going to hear from you next. So your grand challenge that you're working towards is a very cool one, trying to reduce the emissions from CO2 that's produced in manufacturing industry, and changing that CO2, converting it into commercial products, things that are useful, using nanocatalysis. Can you tell us about what you're doing in the laboratory, what you're studying for your PhD, what's keeping you busy?
Oh, so I thank you for asking. So first of all, I want to thanks you, Obscura, for this very gorgeous song, Venom. So for our project, Carbon Dioxide Zero. So in this project, basically we are trying to convert carbon dioxide into some valuable fuels, such as like convert them into methane, then into something like a C2 or 2C4 fuel. So currently, as all we know, like basically we are emitting more and more carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases in a very high rate, which will inevitably to result in some kind of climate disasters in the very future. So we must come up with some kind of a feasible method to fix this problem. So in my PhD project, we are trying to develop some kind of nanocatalyst which can convert carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases into useful fuels. So kind of like you can imagine like we are trying to absorb and we're trying to storage those carbon dioxide, which is as waste, which is produced by factories and other industries, fine chemical industries, mechanical industries, those, and also like cars produces carbon dioxide. We convert those carbon dioxide into valuable fuels. So basically it's kind of like we use waste to produce fuels, and we use this kind of fuels to support our lives again. It's kind of like making everything to be a circle, so to achieve a very sustainable future. So that's what we aim to achieve. And by doing this, we need to use this kind of nano catalyst, because, you know, we are design catalysts when everything going to the nano region, everything changed. And like you can imagine, it's like in the normal scale, you have one pen, you can write down one characteristics at one time. However, in the nano range, it's kind of like you divide your pen into like thousands or even more than that, like very same pens. And at that time, you can write down thousands characteristics at the same time, which means you can convert, like in the chemical aspects, you can convert those things into very useful stuffs at the same time. So we need to use nanotechnology to convert carbon dioxide into valuable fuels. In that way, only in that way we can convert those things in a very high efficient and to achieve a very sustainable future. Yeah.
Thanks, Wenjia. So, you know, combining all of this research is, you know, one way is to use the CO2 we've produced to make things that are useful, and to try and reduce that really harmful gas that's causing our planet to warm up way too quickly at the same time as other people are developing greener sources of fuel. Thanks, Wenjia.
Yeah, thank you.
And we've got Sean and Tamara of Obscura Hale, as well as a gorgeous little cat. What's your cat's name?
This is our Dubby. This is Dubby.
Dubby, gorgeous. We had
Very
Eugenia wanting to have a little introduction to the cat in the chat there. And Non also saying getting some Sufjan vibes. I know when we played this on air the other day, it kind of just like, I don't know, it was like this pang in my heart and like this tear came out. I was like, oh, hearing it live with like after hearing the research as well. How did you take the research and use it as inspiration for the track?
Well, we thought it was important to carry the weight of the research and what the research represented and what it was fending off, which is kind of apocalyptic. So we wanted it to be a hopeful message of, hey, we can close this loop. We can stop we can find a way to live without dependency on the current fuel source right now by closing that loop and making sure that we don't spill it out into anything else and destroy ecosystems or destroy ourselves. So we thought it was important to get that message across, and we wanted the song to build and have elements of it that you would want to listen to while you were in the lab, but also kind of mimic the epiphany that you would get when you're thinking about something for too long and you don't know whether or not you're on the cusp of something, but then you have a breakthrough and that breakthrough remains. So that's how we arranged the song.
Yeah, I think you can really hear that in the song. So we're going to say something tomorrow.
Yeah, we also the way we like built the song up is we used a lot of old loops that we had created. So basically to recycle some old music that we created and to put it into this song, because we were inspired by, the recycling of fuel and idea. So we definitely wanted to put that in there as well. Yeah, beautiful. I think you can really feel the gravitas of like the research and the importance of it at the start, and then like you said, that epiphany moment and kind of the release or the hopefulness when it's that part. I'm like, yeah, that's what I hear anyway. Spot on.
You do.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sean and Tamara. I think at various times when I'm listening to each of the tracks as part of Live from the Lab, I've definitely had that welling feeling of tears in my eyes or a really emotional feeling. Maybe I'm just an old softie, but each of the songs has caught me at different moments, and I hope the people who've joined us, as Courtney has just said to me in the chat, for this listening party have felt some of that emotion too. We now like to invite all of our panelists to come back and switch their videos and cameras on, because we're going to have a good old chat. We want to answer any questions you have. So if you're a member of the audience and you have a question for a particular person, musician, scientist, or anyone, please do ask it and we'll try and get to that question. I think I'll start us off with one and then I'll hand over to Courtney, and we'll keep an eye on the chats too. I've got one for the scientists, first of all. Has anybody been listening to their track this week as they've been doing their work? And if so, would you like to share how that's been going for you, how your work's been going with the music that now soundtracks some of what you do?
I actually played it once when I was preparing some presentation for my work. It does bring a quite different feeling, because the sound that Jamal writes, Invisible to Me, Invisible Love or something like that. This is a very emotional song. It definitely conveys a very strong feeling, like a personal feeling, encapsulates me in your heart. So I never think of my project in that way because it's all very objective to me. Like all the materials to me, it's just like trouble after trouble. You have to fix all the troubles, and then here's comes another problem. It's never have like sort of a personal emotion attached to these materials. But thanks to this song, it does make me feel quite different. And I did play it, loop like where I was doing the work in the office. It does feel quite good. So thank you again, Gemma, for such a beautiful piece of music.
Oh, so cool. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah.
We've got a question in the chat from you actually, Shayna, asking Obscura Hale what the name of the string instrument is at the start of Venom.
It's a harp.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds very beautiful.
Thank you.
That's Tamara's doing.
So good.
Well spotted, Shayna.
At first I was thinking if that is the Chinese string instrument, the 13 strings one. It's quite similar. I never thought it's a harp, but it definitely have very beautiful voices and sounds. Yeah.
They both resonate in the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Wenjia or Lamie? Have you been listening while you've been working this week?
Well, to be honest, I listened once when I was doing experiments. In the middle of that sound, the Venom, it's like it's chunky. It's very chunky. Makes you wanna just moving your body a lot. At the very first, it's like it's slowly. It's giving you a feeling like you are thinking something. It's like for this sound, the things like you are thinking something, and in the middle of that, you figured out something, and you are so excited about that. Like it's chunky stars, and after that, you go back to think again. Mm-hmm. And in the last part of it, the chunky sound appears. It's kind of like you are doing experiments. Like at first, you're doing experiments. Slowly. You find out something, you get back to repeat, and you find out it's like, okay, it's correct. It's definitely correct. It's kind of like that. It's like, the feeling to me, it's like, it's match. It's very match. To be honest.
Good. Yeah, that's exactly.
Very nice sound, to be honest. Yeah, I love it.
That's exactly what we were trying to achieve as well when we were making
yes.
that. So
yeah, we wanted you to feel it physically and hopefully not break anything in the process while you were
it's pretty good.
Yeah, sounds like it's soundtracking your work in a very spot on way, Wenji.
And Lamia?
Hi. Yes, I did listen to it once. It's not because I didn't want to listen more, but just I'm busy with meetings and we're preparing for the start of the semester next week. But as I said when I heard it the first time live, that feeling makes me travel. And because I can't travel today, as we know, nobody can travel.
Yeah.
I love that taking me to Japan or somewhere else. So I've listened to it and I'm like, oh, this is fantastic because I could just travel through that sound rather than being there. So yeah, thank you for that fantastic sound.
Do you think? Oh, sorry, you go, Obscura.
Oh, okay. I was just going to ask, what does it mean for all the musicians to be making something like this in such a weird time? And do you feel lucky that you've got the ability to do that at home? And what's it like for other musicians that you know up in Sydney that are struggling with that, like that usually spend their time in a studio or usually ride off the performance aspect of music? Like, what does it mean to you?
I mean, firstly, I think it's amazing that even just to like write music in response to something, because usually I feel like when I make music, it's because I feel like it or because I am feeling some type of way and I feel like expressing something. So to be given an opportunity to write something like specifically in response to something is, I think, it's like a really nice opportunity. And I mean, for me, I've always like traveled light. Like my studio is just my laptop and a pair of headphones. So I guess I'm quite fortunate with that. But I definitely know, I think it's like it's a weird time, but I also think we've kind of settled into some kind of like routine. Like the other day I realized I hadn't seen a friend since I think literally the beginning of March, and we used to see each other like every week and catch up. So but it didn't even feel like it had been that long somehow, just because we just got used to not seeing each other. So I think everyone copes differently, but this is a super, super, super cool opportunity and a very welcome distraction, or a very welcome thing to do in the otherwise void of time that I now have. So
yeah, it's nice to know that frontiers are still being pushed in the field
Absolutely.
of science, and that we can be a part of that and part of the conversation.
Yeah.
What about you, Gemma?
Well, yeah, I was really happy when I saw this opportunity, and I similarly, like I haven't really written, like I'm used to writing from my perspective and just writing about what I feel. And so like what you said, I haven't like written from like not another perspective per se, but with something so in mind. I'm used to just writing from experience about what I feel, and that it's definitely been a weird time. I think everyone can agree on that. But I definitely enjoyed, having something that I could just really focus on and could really put my mind towards. It was a good distraction as well for me too. With work and other things, it was great.
Yeah. We've got a question in the chat here from Shayna saying, what made you decide to pair musicians to the scientists? Alice, I think that question is for you.
I think guilt is charged. It was a bit of a mixture of things. So I guess as part of the project, the program, the celebration that Live from the Lab is, we very loosely to characterize people's music, which I really feel awful doing, but we have sort of two more electronic artists in Flower Boy and P Twigs. And then we have more kind of singer-songwriter style performers in our other four artists, even though everybody's very, very different in their style. So I think I thought very carefully about whether or not to pair Lamier, who's the more computational project, with an electronic artist. And at first I was like, oh, maybe we won't do that. But I'd been listening through lots of Flower Boy's work, and something about it just made me really think of Lamier. I don't know why, but I just thought that you guys would go well together. I knew Sean is really interested in the environment and sort of processes from our chats before, so that's why I kind of went with CO2 zero. And then I guess with the other partners, I just kind of kept on moving people around and thinking, I don't know, I think these two will just gel well together. But really it was a bit of just more of a feeling than anything else. And I had help from Danny Eden from the Con and from Izzy Phillips from FDI, who, we were able to select the artists together. We had a really hard time doing it because there's so many fabulous artists in Sydney. But I think whether it's through luck more than design, the partnerships have gone pretty well. So pretty happy about that.
I was wondering, after hearing some of the other, like this one's for the musicians, hearing some of the other research areas, has that kind of sparked any initial kind of thoughts of, oh, maybe I could create something in response to that from one of the scientists that you didn't work with for your song?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think science and music, or like arts and science in general, are like pitted like against each other, or like on opposite sides of a spectrum quite often. But really there's so many parts of it that overlap, because in science, especially in areas where you're trying to create something new or invent something new or solve a problem, there's a lot of like thinking outside the box or like experimenting, and that's really all that art is in many ways. So yeah, I don't know. I think like it'd be cool if maybe you released a thing and everyone made like an EP or something in response to each, like one track to each thing, and then
You could go one step further and have all the same musicians interpret each other's tracks.
It's live from the lab Inception.
Yeah. There's a question from Danny.
Oh, there we go. Danny's saying, did the musicians have clear visual images in response to the science, or were they more emotionally driven from the start? Does anyone want to jump in first on that one? Gemma?
I would say for me, I would say at the beginning I wasn't sure if I had to write from like a literal point of view. So once I like talked to Alice about that in our like in our 90-minute conversation, once I realized that I could just go a bit crazy and kind of write however I like perceived it, it just came to me really quickly. I was like thinking, okay, science, how can I make this into like, you know, a catchy song? And immediately I just thought of like giving characteristics, like I've said like a few times, giving characteristics to each part, like I think it was the DNA, the nanotechnology, and the gene. I could be wrong. But I would say I was emotionally driven right from the start, personally.
Yeah. And what about you, Non?
I'm like, all of my music is emotionally driven. So my general process with when I write is I will like spend hours scrolling through sounds on Ableton and pick an instrument that I feel fits how I feel about the topic or how I'm feeling in the moment, and then go from there. So yeah, it's definitely very emotionally driven. I think even like, I don't know, because we in my chat with Amie and Alice, we touched on how there's like a sustainability element to this as well, where you know, if you're simulating the materials, you're not using the materials in real life, and they're not being wasted in these experiments that may not, you know, end up with a positive result. And then we sort of touched on how like there would be people in the world who wouldn't necessarily be for that because you know, capitalism doesn't want us to be sustainable with everything that we do. So yeah, it was almost like I was like, oh, there's an underside to science that I hadn't considered, which is that there would be people in the world who may actively be trying to work against stuff like this, or like once the technology has been made, like maybe buy out the technology so that it wouldn't be accessible for everyone, or like all of these things. I don't know. So yeah, I got a bit sad, but
yeah,
it's
understandable though, because like, yeah, when you start to dig in, you're like, oh wait, just because there's progress that's been made doesn't mean that everyone necessarily wants it to continue.
Absolutely.
Like an uphill battle.
Yeah, bit devo, really.
There's always some people who won't fully understand what you're doing, and then you have to do your best to make it as clear as possible. And I think the way that we interpreted Winjia and Jun's work is that we saw the enthusiasm for the topic and for the research. So we knew that if it was followed through with, that it would be quite an uplifting thing for humanity to experience. So the palette of that popped out, and we followed the palette. It was to write something that was uplifting, that had a lot of layers, that had a lot of you know, major melodies, and
we also took some inspiration, because when we spoke to the scientists, we did ask, like, what do you like to listen to while you are researching and experimenting? And I think the popular answer was, you know, classical music. So that's why we did want to bring in that sort of, you know, classical vibe into it, and then take it to uplifting, but just to sort of give something to the scientists. So, you know, like not only about the message in the research, but something for them to listen to while they are doing their research and experimenting and working really, really hard.
Yeah, in this case, it was good
in the lab.
It was good to meet you halfway with something that you would already want to listen to.
And like, science is really dry. So it's like, you know, if you're going to try and speak to every, like the general population and trying to say, look, this is the technology we're doing, like we have carbon and we're going to recycle and reuse it, we're going to do this, do that, like you're going to lose a lot of the general population. So we wanted to like bridge that gap with the music to like trying to get that message across in an artistic way so that it could be communicated to people, you know, who aren't going to sit there and read the hard science.
Yeah, just like translate it into emotional content rather than straight up, this is the science.
Which was such a cool thing to be able to do. Like
yeah,
really,
and
really
like,
cool.
Like you said, a way to reach people who perhaps are interested, but they just learn in a different way. So they need that emotional hook to get them engaged.
Absolutely. I did science at university, so I would have loved it if, you know, instead of a boring lecture, we got to like learn things through song.
And you know, like what I love this, and what I love this song most is like last time you told us like you did also recycle some of you. It's not like recycle, like you recycled some of you a parts of music, right? So it's kind of like the science. What do we do? We really matched this song in our project. We're also doing like a loop, like recycle everything, reuse some parts.
Yeah.
And the song is so beautiful. Like we said, we prefer some kind of a classic music. It's make us more relaxed during when we are thinking some science story or something like that. And you really did that. And you know, it's made me very I'm moved by this, to be honest. And
Well,
it's like so hard to mix your stuff with the science. I know it's hard, and to be honest.
Yeah. In a way, we have the same kind of methodology though, because we never delete anything. If we make something on a loop pedal just screwing around, then we'll save it. And some of those loops that you heard in there are 8 or 9 years old. So and I haven't listened to them in a long time. So it was really nice for us to be able to feel like there's an epiphany on the music side, you know.
I think Tamara's point about, and when Tamara shared that she did science at uni, I certainly hope that not everybody finds it dry when they're in the lectures. I know.
Oh my gosh, I can't surely be alone on that. Like,
no.
Full-time science degree.
There's nothing dry about science, honestly. So
I mean,
we can have that debate another time tomorrow.
Yeah.
Christopher Vega Sanchez has asked. So Chris would like to know, do the artists have any previous scientific experience? Have they ever had the experience to be immersed in a lab, for example? And the same for the scientists. Do any of our scientists have any artistic talents that they'd be willing to share?
I guess I'll just quickly say that I have no real experience with science, and that I didn't do science in senior school, so past year 10, which was when you could drop it, I guess. But I've always had an interest in science. I think dryness in science isn't the material, I think it's how it's taught. So like that's a sort of different thing. But anyway, yeah.
Thanks, Nana. I'll pay none later for that little plug for science. Lamia, I know you have some artistic talents that we've talked about before.
It depends, what does it mean artistic? How artistic is artistic? I wouldn't call that artistic. I have a lot of love for dancing, and I do a lot of dancing. So yeah, and I love music.
What kind of dancing do you do?
Oh, I do different things. So my first love is Zumba, if we call that dancing, but it's so I even I'm like what they call a Zin, so it's an instructor basically. And I do salsa and tango, and I've done Lindy Hop at some stage, so I really love dancing.
So good.
To me, it's like I learned some kind of drawing before, because like as an engineer, we do need to draw a lot of pictures as well sometimes. And during my high school and middle school, I do had some kind of class about the drawing stuff, like basically just Like it's kind of like where you put a cup in front of me and I draw that for you, and that kind of things. It's like it's not like real artist stuff. It's like sometimes for fun, to be honest. Sometimes it's like prepare for the future work. As an engineer, we do need some kind of drawing skills, to be honest. Yeah, so like that.
Yeah, it is a kind of therapy, having a pen in your hand and drawing something rather than writing a language down.
Yeah, sometimes drawing is easier to be understand, but sometimes we do need like languages to deep understanding. Yeah, so it depends on what are we going to explain. So we need drawing and the languages to explain some scientific stuff together, make people easier to understand, basically.
I think I like that is a good in-between, a good translator, because when I was in uni, in my last year of uni, I chose astronomy as one of my electives, and in most of that class I was trying to interpret the math behind everything by scaling it down to something I could draw the entire system by hand and then have everything labeled properly, but the art in it was the thing that drew me closer to it as a frontier, and space is cool, so I like drawing space.
That's a new concept, drawing space. It sounds very out there, Sean.
It does.
I think maybe, Courtney, we've got time for one more question, and there's one from Danny in the chat, so maybe we'll go with that one. So this is from Dr. Danny Eden, who's part of the Nanosonic Stories team behind Live from the Lab. I think my other 3 colleagues from this project are here, so I should say hello to them. That's Dr. Nazima Madpour, Dr. Kiara O'Reilly, and Dr. Danny Eden. Hello to all of you. And Danny asks, have the scientists ever associated their music their research with music or art before? So is that something any of you've experienced? And if it isn't, how did it feel this time to have this interpretation?
Well, I never actually have it my research associated with music before, but we do have some sort of art or image competition, because our project sometimes we sell, so you can have very cool pictures, microscopic pictures, very bright colors, arranged in a random pattern that it doesn't look very cool. So we used to have exhibitions of sort of cool or beautiful research pictures. This is the first time I really associate my project with music, and it's really unexpected and surprising. So I guess I will like trying to reach out more often from later and see if I can have fun my talents in some other areas other than science.
Lamia, how about you?
Yeah, I've never experienced that before. But in fact, what I was thinking is that this is a very creative way of trying to translate what we're doing a bit to the public, or trying to explain to people what we're doing. They might relate to it, because in particular with our project, it's really hard to explain. It's more in the fundamental side of it, like all these computational things are not as easy or other things that people can relate to. So I found that this is very interesting idea. So I might have more ideas in the future when I want to promote it to the public audience. And I will get my parents to listen to that, because they never understand what I'm doing. So that may help them.
Yeah, maybe this is the next step in science communication, Alice.
Yeah, I hope so. This is kind of what we're hoping to explore in the Nanosonic Stories team, and I think the musicians and researchers who've been game to be part of Live from the Lab have certainly done this. I guess there's, we've spoken a little bit about translation, something that can be lost or something that needs to be communicated in a different way. And I think the musicians have managed to do a little bit of a mix of something that is didactic in parts and explains something about the science, but perhaps more importantly, connects on an emotional level. So it really matters. It's really something that I certainly have really loved listening to. I think we're going to wrap up for this afternoon because it's drawing to the end of our time together. I think it just remains for me to thank all of you for coming, for me to thank Courtney Ammenhauser, the wonderful host of Up For It on FBI Radio. You should tune in every weekday morning if you aren't already listening to Courtney on FBI Radio. If you're not an FBI Radio supporter, then you should think about supporting FBI Radio. It's a wonderful community radio station, or making a contribution. If you like listening to the wonderful talent that is supported by this fantastic station. I'd like to thank Sean and Tamara. Thank you so much, Obscura Hale. Non from Flower Boy, wonderful to see you today. Gemma Navarrete, who's a student at Sydney Con and a fabulous musician who we'll be seeing much more of. Dr. Shayna Gia, Dr. Lamia Azizi, Wenjia Yang, thank you so much. And we'd also really like to thank the University of Sydney Nano Institute and Inspiring Australia for supporting this project. Good afternoon to all of you. Have a wonderful weekend. And we hope that you'll check out the podcasts and the videos that are coming live from the lab. See you all.
Happy Science Week!
Happy Science Week!
National Science Week. Thank you.
Happy Science Week!
Together, Alice.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.